afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to this session. I'm not sure the reason why you've joined. I can only assume that it's because of the topic. The topic today is finishing attachment and dependency in relationships. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Sona, and I'm part of the Inner Space Center team in Abu Dhabi. So welcome to those online, welcome even to those in the room. And today I'd like to talk about what is attachment before anything else. Because I think perhaps there's been a lot of confusion around what this word means. And therefore it's hard to pinpoint if attachment is something that I suffer from, or whether it's something that is nothing to do with me. So what is attachment? Let's define it first. Well, attachment is, if I can put it very simply, it's stickiness. It's a stickiness that I have inside. And when I say inside, I mean inside me, the soul. And it is this stickiness inside me that actually makes me become dependent, makes me get attached to all sorts of things. In a moment, we'll discover why I'm sticky and why I'm not clean. But first, I just wanted to mention all the things that we get attached to. One of the most common things to get attached to is people. So rather than me here and the other person there, it's like with my stickiness, with my glue, I get stuck to someone. Second thing is many people get attached to objects in their life, to things. My car, my house, my pen, anything, my phone, And again, it becomes so much a part of my identity. Another interesting thing is people get attached to where they live. In fact, we can get so attached to places and the kind of surroundings, Some people can't even think of moving out of their city or their country. I would say city, really, because so many people are attached to that place. What about the attachment to my lifestyle? So sometimes we can get so used to a way of doing things that when life shifts a little bit, or for some reason I can't do what I do on a regular basis, I can't function. I get so used to a routine. And whilst I would acknowledge that a routine and discipline are important things in our life, but to get attached to it, it's a different thing. Have a think about it. What happens if you're used to sleeping at a particular time, and for some reason you can't do that? What happens to you? What happens if you're used to eating at a particular time, and you can't? What happens to you? And then I think the deepest attachment that you would probably know about, and definitely you have if you have the other four, the deepest attachment is the attachment to my own identity, to who I believe I am. It's not really who I am, but it's who I believe I am. And I keep holding on to that. And because I do that, from there stem all the other attachments, which then start to bother me. So if I'm attached to being a woman, my whole thinking is as a woman. I can't step out of that. I can't imagine another perspective. And It could be an attachment to my identity in a particular nationality. It could be my attachment to my identity according to my age. It could be attachment to my identity according to my profession. Like I'm a doctor, so I can only see things in that particular way. And it's a very dangerous thing, actually. Being attached means I'm going to end up in trouble, which is why this workshop is called Finishing Attachment and Dependency. If attachment was a good thing, why would we want to finish it? But obviously you've joined the call, you've joined this workshop because you're aware that something needs to be sorted out. And attachment really is creating issues for me. So what does attachment do? What is it that attachment does internally to me, which is why we want to finish it. So when I get attached to anything external to me, it means that I start to lose my own real identity. And I start to be attached, as I said before, to a person, an object, a place, whatever it might be. It means that I've started to create an identity, a joint identity, me and this other thing external to me, which is not true. It's a very false thing, because you are you, and you'll always be you. And you're not attached to anyone or anything when you come into this world. People say, well, aren't you attached to your mother? No. Yes, your mother is there. The function of the mother is there. The love of the mother is there. But even for some reason, if the mother is not there in the child's life, the child will still survive. We've seen that happening in many, many instances. So you come into this world alone. And as we know, you will leave this world alone, right? Everyone's okay with that. Everyone's accepted that. So if that's the way it's going to be, then basically attachment are the things that I've picked up along the way and I have confused my identity with, which creates so many issues. Another thing that happens is, okay, apart from my identity getting messed up, I give away my power. How do I do that? If anything happens to the object of my attachment, whether it has some ups and downs in its life, whether it is not there in my life, if for some reason I lose that object or that person, whether that person or object becomes too close to me, whatever happens, it starts to affect me. So I've given away my power. My power fluctuates when that attachment, that person, that place, that whatever it is, fluctuates. It's very interesting, isn't it? How we give away our power. It's not that someone takes it away. No. By being attached to anything or anyone, you have given away your power. You become dependent. And another way of describing, for me at least, my inner state when I come into this world is I'm independent. I'm independent of what happens around me. I am a being in myself. When I'm detached, I am independent. I can be myself. I can hold my power despite the changes that are going on around me. But when I'm attached, what happens? I start to become dependent. I start to expect from all those things around me that have nothing to do with me, with my identity, but they're there. And I choose to get stuck to them and become dependent on them. So people who are attached, they're constantly fluctuating up and down based on the thing they're attached to. It's risky business, isn't it? When you think about it, it's like you're giving your mental state, your emotional state to something outside of you. Now imagine if that fluctuates a lot, what will happen to you? You don't have control because you've attached yourself to it. Has anyone been on a roller coaster? Roller coaster goes up and down and around and around, and they strap you in, right? They really strap you in because be risky otherwise. And then you have no control. Then you go with the ride. It's hard to get off. You can't. Attachment is just like that. You strap yourself to a roller coaster ride, and you don't know what the ride's going to be like. It's like you're going on a roller coaster in the dark. Why? Because as all the different things around you go up and down and round and round, you too are going to go through that up and down inside here. Isn't that an amazing visual? So this is why the conversation is finishing attachment and dependency, because we don't want to go on this roller coaster ride. Who wants to be sitting strapped in a little carriage and you're going into the dark and you don't know whether you're going to be going up and down and round and round? What's going to happen? You don't know. It's frightening. And really, when I see people who are attached, it's frightening. Because I don't know what the mental, emotional state of that person is going to be tomorrow. It's all dependent on the things they're attached to. So one day I meet the person, they're stable. One day I meet them, and they're all over the place. Why? Because the object of their attachment is all over the place. And I can't control that. So, so just think about it. Is that how you want to live your life? Dependent and completely at the mercy of the object of your attachment. So how do we know what you're attached to? Because you need to discover that, right? What are you attached to? Well, the easiest way of knowing what you're attached to is, when do you shake? When do you get upset? That is the easiest entry point into what am I attached to? Because if you can identify the things that upset you, you can identify the things that make you shake internally, it means that you have kind of put out a cord, and that cord has latched onto that thing. And as that thing is shaking, you are shaking. Sometimes it's not so easy to identify it, but it's always there. It might even be my own thinking process. You know, I have a particular way of thinking, a particular way of analyzing things. If that gets, what could you say? If somebody challenges that and says, oh, no, it's rubbish, what you're saying is wrong, and I start to get frustrated, or I start to feel uncomfortable. Why is that happening? Because I'm so attached to that way. And when someone comes and actually, you know, rocks my comfort zone, I don't like it. Why? Because I'm dependent on that. I want it to be that way, because that's what I've always believed. So on a very deep level, we're also attached to our beliefs. You know, I believe a person should behave in this way. I believe a person should dress in this way. I believe a person should deal with me in this way. And when that doesn't happen, once again, I've got so stuck to my belief that the minute I'm a little bit shaken, I lose my emotional stability. Another area, you know, to look at is the connection between attachment and love. Many people really believe that attachment is love and love is attachment. Completely wrong. And I don't blame you, because this is what the world teaches us. The world has completely confused these two words to the point where sometimes it's hard to separate the understanding. Attachment is giving away my power and becoming dependent on someone. So I actually, in fact, become a taker. When you're dependent on someone, you're taking from them, you're taking stability from that person. That person goes up and down, you lose your stability. You are expecting from that person. You are perhaps even needing that person in your life. It could be an object, and you can't survive without it. So attachment is an act of complete take. I'm a beggar. I don't have, I need support. Therefore, give me. That is attachment. What is love? What is love? Love is the opposite of that. In fact, where there is no love, there will be attachment. Where there is attachment, there's no love. Love is an act of giving, an act of supporting, an act of caring. But there's a big however in between. Without losing my identity and the identity of the other person or the object or the place, without the identities getting merged. Love allows places, people, beliefs, ideas to be. It allows them to be, to exist, even if they're different to me. Right? Because love knows and accepts that everything in this world, everyone in this world is different. Attachment doesn't know that. Attachment wants me to be a particular way, and attachment wants others to stay in that particular way. It's very interesting. Sometimes when we get attached to someone, and it feels like my identity becomes bigger. It feels really good. Why? It feels like their power, my power come together and, or it could be a place. Suppose you go to a place and you really love the nature there and you really love the surroundings. Wow, how beautiful. What happens? The place and the beauty of that place feel like they enhance your own identity. You in that place become stronger than you alone or you in another place. But it's so false. Why? Because again, your identity of self has been enhanced by something external. And whatever is external to you has to be taken away one day. It has to be removed because it's not the law of life that you will remain attached to anything or anyone forever. But this is not what we've been told, is it? The world teaches us, generally, it teaches us to attach ourselves, to enhance our identity outside in, not to enhance our identity inside out. In fact, love has a prerequisite. It's a very interesting prerequisite. You cannot love anything or anyone if there is not space between you and the other. What do I mean by space? The space that allows you to be you, the other to be the other. The space that allows you to be you and a place to remain the way it is. Last week, was it last week? Yeah, I've been back a week. So the week before that, the Eid week, excuse me, I was actually in Nairobi, which is in a place called Kenya. I don't know if anyone's been there. And in this beautiful land, a few of us went to visit some tea estates. I don't know if you've ever seen tea estates, where tea grows. and Kenya is one of the largest producers of tea in the world and coffee. So Kenyan tea and Kenyan coffee are very well known. In fact, African tea and coffee are, one of the world's best. So we went to this beautiful place and it was so lovely, so pretty. And when you go to these sorts of natural places, thank you, places of such beauty, you reach a state where you can get very lost in the nature around you. And you can think, oh, if I am here, I feel great. But it's interesting that I left and came back to Abu Dhabi. And a couple of days before I was leaving, I was hearing that there's some demonstrations going on in the city center, but didn't think too much about it. The whole of last week, you might have read in the newspaper, the whole of Nairobi was in a state of, rioting, and 20 or so people died, and so many injured. And it just made me realize I can't attach my identity with any place, with any person, with any object, because it's going to change. If you attach yourself to any physical object, one day it's going to not be there. One day it's going to break. One day it's going to change. The way it functions will change. And it's the same with people. One day they're not going to be there. One day they're going to change the way they function. One day they're going to be distant from you. So what's going to happen to you? You will be unstable. So I hope that's given you a little bit of an understanding of what attachment is, how attachment is so different to love. Love would have been going to the tea estate in Kenya and saying, oh, well, that's lovely. It's a beautiful environment. It's a very beautiful scene. I remain stable, whether I'm there, whether I'm in Abu Dhabi, whether I'm in Australia, whether I'm in South America, wherever it is, I remain stable in my own identity, and I appreciate that which is around me. So love has a prerequisite. It needs me to stay at a distance from the whole external surroundings in my life. Means my family, my friends, my work colleagues. There needs to be space between me, the being, the soul on the journey, and the world around me. And this space, this buffer zone, sometimes is referred to as detachment. Detachment just means protected space, a protected buffer zone. It's a spiritual space that protects me from being affected by what happens around me. So just to describe that a little bit more, some people say, but if you are detached from people, if you have this space, how do you care for them? Actually, you care for them much more. Why? Why is it that detachment allows me to have more love? Why is it that detachment allows me to have more care? Why is it that detachment allows me to remain a giver rather than a taker? Because for me to be able to give, I need to remain full. I need to remain stable. I need to remain constant. If I'm constantly going up and down, if I'm forever being affected, I can't give. When I'm detached from something, I can care, I can love, I can support. But if the object or the person of my detachment, the other external object changes, I'm unaffected. When I'm unaffected, I remain the master. I remain strong. I remain in control of my life. Otherwise, when I see people who are emotional, I immediately know what's happening. They're attached and they're being affected by the object of their attachment. So in that situation, they can't actually help whoever they're attached to or whatever they're attached, because they've already lost it. So this detachment, where I say, this is I, this is my identity, and there is the external world around me, allows me to remain unaffected, uninfluenced. And, if I'm in that space, even though there are changes happening on a, I won't even say daily basis, but minute-to-minute basis in our lives, I remain stable. It's like being in the eye of a hurricane. The hurricane's going on around me, I remain stable. So, to be honest with you, to be detached, to remain independent, requires training. And really, that is all that our meditation course teaches. It teaches me how to remain in society, in the family, at work, with people, but to live with this space around, with this protection around me. So that wherever I go, I don't fear the effect people have on me. I don't fear the influence that people have on me. I can be with people and yet be strong, stable, and effective. The world has taught us quite the opposite. The world tells us, well, you get attached to people. It's a nice thing. You stick together. You're made for each other. Mother, child, partners, friends. You really have to stick to each other. And what one person does, the other person has to do. What one person thinks, the other person has to think. What does that do? It actually takes away my life. It takes away my uniqueness. It takes away my ability to live life in an independent way. In fact, I find so many people with control issues in the world. I don't know if you've heard that word before. Control issues. So either they want to control someone, which means they want to overpower, which means they're attached to the person and they want to make decisions for them, or the opposite. They want to be controlled by them. They want to remain subservient. They want to remain in a place where they're not thinking for themselves. And so in the world, people actually encourage us to have this imbalanced way of living. And if you're not attached to something, it's like, well, what's wrong with you? How can you be so cold? How can you be so cool? But in fact, it's the opposite. You're actually staying in your strength. You're actually staying in your power. So because we have been taught to be so sticky and so attached, you cry, I cry. You go down, I go down. You're not in my life, I'm incomplete. Have you ever felt that? Someone moves away from your life, you're incomplete. Oh, I miss them so much. It's so sad. I mean, how ridiculous. How ridiculous. Think about it. A few years ago, that person wasn't in your life. Maybe a few decades ago, if it's someone you've been with for a long time. I mean, your own mother, she had a life before you entered her life. She was a young girl, she had her own life, and suddenly the identities got so caught up. So attachment is so dangerous, so risky. And this is where on a spiritual journey, in our spiritual study, in our meditation course, no matter where you do this meditation course, the whole journey is from not knowing myself, meaning knowing myself with all these sticky labels around me, to knowing who I am as just me. Me, the way that is my eternal state, my real state, my powerful state. So this is just a little introduction to attachment. Now, how do I finish it? How do I actually get over it? Because that's what the whole workshop is about, isn't it? We do need to kind of do a little bit of this introduction, because otherwise, people get confused with attachment. Before I tell you how to finish attachment, I'd like you all to think for a minute. Who, what, where am I attached to? Or it could also be what opinion, what idea, what belief. What is your area of attachment? Just give yourself a minute. Just give yourself a minute to think. What are you attached to? Who are you attached to? Where are you attached to? I'm just checking all your comments and okay. So there is one question which I will come to from someone, but for now, I just want you to identify your attachment. Because if you don't have the honesty to identify the attachment, it can never go. No one is going to take away your attachment until you identify it and you untie yourself. You tied yourself up, you chained yourself, well, nobody can remove that chain. Nobody can remove the rope. Nobody can untie you. It has to be you. Even I can't do it. Even a meditation teacher can't do it for you. Even your, guide in your life, your guru or whatever, they can't do it. It has to be you. So have a little think. And then I'll tell you what you can do to untie yourself. Well, the first thing to untie yourself is a deep understanding that I function independent to anyone, anything, anywhere. I can be me, no matter. In fact, I am me. Who is that me? The inner thinking, feeling being. No matter which country you take me to, no matter what task you ask me to do, no matter who you put me with, I still have the capacity and the right to be me. Not only that, it is the best state for me to live in. Me, just me, free. Everyone wants to be free. Everyone wants to be independent and freedom, that freedom of everything. First thing to know is you have that right, you can do it. Because I think one thing that stops us from being detached from people is I can't function on my own. My life is better with the attachment. Actually, no. The second thing to understand is that the attachment is actually diminishing your capacity to function in the world. So the first point was, I can be me and I can function. I don't need this attachment in my life. Secondly, the attachment is diminishing your capacity. It's taking away your capacity to function. As I said, sometimes it's a little bit of a mirage. And you think the attachment is boosting your identity, boosting your energy. Oh, being in this place makes me feel so happy. Being with this person makes me feel so, enthusiastic. Doing a particular task. This is a very tricky one. If you have a skill or you have a hobby, if I'm doing that, I'm happy. It's really hard for artists, because while they're doing what they're doing, there's such a surge of energy. But what happens when they can't do that? Down. So they're kind of attached to their skill, attached to the doing. I mean, during COVID, people's mental health went down a lot, right? Because they couldn't do what they were used to doing. The attachment to doing was taken away. And no one had the capacity to just be and be still. In fact, for a lot of meditators, it was like, wow, I finally have the time to practice meditation without the pull of this, that, the other. But for most people in the world, it was horror time, terror time. Why? Because of the attachment to the doing, the dependency on the doing. So your capacity to function is at maximum when you are detached, not when you're in. It's contrary to people's belief. The third point, to untie yourself or to break the chain, is to realize that when you're attached to someone or to some place or to something, you're invoking attachment towards you, which means not only are you diminishing your power, but you're diminishing the power of the energy that you're creating around you. If you're a person who's sticky, what do? People get stuck to you. Places get stuck to you. What I mean by that, it's not that tea plantation place will get stuck to me, but the energy I'm putting out is one of sticking. I'm not helping the world to live in high energy. I'm actually bringing the world into a state of low energy. Just the energy of attachment is actually spreading around me and is creating this vibration of sticking. Someone has to break that chain. Is it going to be you? Do you want to go around with people hanging on to you, stuck to you? Imagine how heavy you would feel. It's the same with parents and children. So there was a question online, where parents really have such an attachment to their kids. And they really believe that this belongs to me, rather than the understanding that this soul, this being, is entrusted to me to take care of it to the best of my ability. But I don't know how long that child is going to live with you. Some children at the age of 18, they leave the house, go to university. And I had to leave my house when I was 6 years old because I went to boarding school for various reasons. And it was such a test for my mother and for me. So you don't know in life who is going to work with you for the next few years and who's not. You can't assume. These days anyway, life is so unpredictable. Same with things. I mean, I have my mobile phone, and I must admit I use my mobile phone quite a bit. But suppose my mobile phone breaks tomorrow. What can you do? You have to manage without it until you can replace it. Or imagine if the internet goes down. We'll have to learn to manage without it. So you will function best in your power when you're detached. And all the stickiness that you're creating is actually transferring itself to your external world. How do you break that? Again, we're back to the children. Well, if you keep in your mind, it's better for you, for your power, your strength, and even for them. Even for them. To keep a little bit of space between you and that other being, the other soul, your child. What I mean by that is, in fact, it's interesting you bring up the question, because I was talking to a set of parents today, and just having a chit chat about, what's going on with kids. And many people know teenage years are not easy because the soul is finding its own identity. It's almost like it's stepping out of the aura of the mother, the aura of, could be the father, but usually it's the mother, but out of the aura of the parents. And in that moment, because we have held them in the aura, we've attached them to us. It's hard for us. It's hard for the mother and father because that soul is trying to find its own identity, its own ego. So if you advise the child, support the child, care for the child. But you also at the same time ask the child to think for themselves. What you're doing is you're actually educating the child spiritually. So for example, as a parent or as a carer, if you say to a younger person, well, this is what I might do if I were in your situation, and these are the reasons for it. And also, these are the consequences if you do this or if you do that. And then tell them, decide for yourself. What you end up doing is you help to empower that person to access their own wisdom and for them to become wise enough to manage their life. Of course, you can't do that with babies, with children under 10. I mean, you could probably start at 6, 7, because they start to understand decision making. And it's really good to have discussions with your children. Well, why does this happen? Why is this the consequence if you go this way? What is the consequence if you go this way? If you eat chocolates all day, what are the health benefits? What are the health detriments of doing that? If you don't study, what would be the consequences of that? So empowering them to think for themselves, knowing that they're not going to immediately become wise and mature, and no, it's a process. It's a process of them coming up, and it's a process of you being able to pull back. So being detached doesn't mean you don't care for them, doesn't mean you don't educate them, but you know that education or care or looking after also means empowering them to function on their own eventually, not today, eventually. Because that soul who is your child is going to come back to you for questions, is going to come back to you to check in, is going to come back to you for wisdom, even when they're 40, 50 years old. I do. I need a specific answer about something and it's not my area of expertise. I asked my dad, what would you do? Because I really value the years of wisdom that he has. Not just my father, but there's so many other people in my life who are 10, 20, 30 years older than me. And I don't want to go through the whole exercise of learning for myself. And so many times I check in with people who are older than me. It's a fast track, isn't it? When you have somebody like that who's older than you can quickly get that feedback from them. So you want your child to keep checking in with you so that you can help them, but not to the point where they're leaning more on you rather than leaning less on you. As I said, it's a process. It's not going to happen overnight. And it's the same on a spiritual journey, it's the same with us. Just because you start meditating or you start your spiritual journey doesn't mean you're going to function in an independent way. You're not. It's going to take time. So if I want to untie myself and untie my attachments, firstly, I really have to understand and commit to the understanding that I am a soul in my own identity. Nothing belongs to me and no one belongs to me. Secondly, I will function to maximum capacity when I'm detached. As long as I maintain my attachments, I will not function to maximum capacity. I will always be, it's like I'll have a lid over my head. I'll always have a lid over my power. I will not be able to be the greatest me that I can. Thirdly, if I continue with this attitude of attachment, needing support, needing dependency, I'm creating that everywhere I go. I'm actually polluting the atmosphere, the spiritual atmosphere where I live. And I'm making others dependent on me. I'm creating an energy of attachment, even when I'm in nature. If I go to the beach and I go, oh, I'm fine here on the beach, I love it here. It's so much better than at home. What am I doing? I'm sending out attachment energy, attachment vibrations into the world. The next person who comes to that same space will feel the same and go, oh, I'm fine here when I'm at the beach, but when I go home, I'm no good. Because we're all affecting each other through our vibrations all the time. So if you send out attachment vibes, what would you get back? Attachment vibes. Once I said to someone, you know, I think Mum's attached to me. And the person replied to me, it's because you're attached to her. And that day is like something completely shifted inside me. And I realized that if I'm clean, what I mean by clean is if I'm in my own space and I keep a buffer zone with the world, meaning I don't allow myself to be affected. I stay in my strength. I stay in my power. That's cleansing. That's spiritual cleansing. If I'm not stuck and attached to people and things, not dependent, so I can live for my own being, then I actually encourage others to live in that way. So I've kind of been speaking for almost 50 minutes now, maybe 45 minutes. And I'd like to open up the floor to questions and maybe even comments. I'm really happy to hear your comments, anything you'd like to say. If you'd like to let me know if there's anything there. Okay, so there is a question from someone who says, my problem is I'm not attracted to anything. So attraction is a little bit different to attachment. But okay, I'll use the word attachment instead. I'm not attached to anything or anyone. Not sure if that's a good thing. But my feeling is better with people and places. So my feeling is better is actually a subtle form of attachment. Remember I told you that if you are attached to someone, what is the sign of it? It means my emotional state will be better or worse based on where I am, who I'm with, and what I have in my hands. If I'm feeling better in a particular place, it means I'm dependent on that place to make me feel that way. If I can feel that way anywhere, what does it mean? I'm independent of the place making me feel a particular way. It's the same with people. If I feel better around certain people, it means that I am drawing on their energy. I'm dependent on their energy to make me feel that way. If I can feel the same no matter who I'm with, it means that I am independent of people. I hope you get it. I hope you understand that. So I know it's a high end. I'm not saying that it's an easy situation to be in. I'm not saying that you're going to get there immediately. Like I said, spiritual journey is a process. The very fact that today we realize that if my feelings are being affected, feeling means my emotional state. The minute I realize my feelings, my emotional state is being affected up and down, I know that there are things and people and places that are affecting me, which I'm attached to.
I didn't know that I am attracted to my skills and hobbies. Is that good?
Hobbies, skills, so you can use them without being attached to them. But if the skill and the hobby is making you happier, then the day when you can't use that skill and hobby, it's a real problem. It's a problem because tomorrow, God forbid, but you can't use that skill and hobby again for some time. It leaves you low. It leaves you feeling down. The ultimate result of attachment, whether today or tomorrow, will be sorrow, will be pain, will be a feeling of being down. It's a bit like the question about feeling better. If I feel better with someone or somewhere, it means I'll feel worse someone or somewhere. So if I feel better using my skill or my hobby, it means if it's not there, how do I feel? I feel worse. So it is a real art. It's actually a spiritual art. You could call it a spiritual science. To engage with life, to be with people, to be in places to do things, but not be dependent on. You're there, you're not there. I'm here, I'm there. I'm doing this, I can't do it. I'm stable in my emotions and stable in my heart. That's the beginning. I'm stable in my power, in my spiritual strength. Nothing takes my strength away. I'm in life, but I keep my buffer zone around me. So I'm not saying don't engage in your spiritual, so your skill or your hobby. It's good. But the day you're about to do something, you might be cooking or it might be painting, just stop yourself and say, okay, I'm not going to do it. I've been looking forward to it so much. Okay, I'm not going to do it. See how you feel. And if it makes you feel a little bit down, oh, I was so looking forward to it. I planned for the last 1 month to be able to do paint this drawing. If you go into that mode, there's attachment, there's dependency. If you go, okay, fine, I'll find something else to do, it's okay. Then, well done. So I hope that's clear.
And that even she thought with trying to tell myself from her, but still I think that I'm still attached to her. What should I do to detach myself?
I think the deepest attachment for any soul is your mother. And the reason for that is because from the time the soul is conceived and comes into the womb, you are living in the aura of another human. And, you know, human beings are one of the few animals on this earth that actually can't function from the minute they're born. They can't even survive unless another human being looks after them. It's a karmic thing. It's because our karmic debt is very heavy. You know, you see another animal, a little cow or a kitten or a puppy, they know how to survive from the minute they're born. They know how to go to the mother for milk. They know how to work their life around. And slowly they grow, and of course their faculties grow and their functioning grows. A human child doesn't know how to do that. A baby is born, it has to be looked after. It's karma. It's the result of the amount of attachment we have amongst ourselves. It's quite interesting. Have a think about it. So what that means is, as long as you consider your mother to be your mother, you cannot stop feeling the pain. The only way you'll stop feeling the pain of your mother missing in your life is when you start to see that person as a soul on a journey, a companion. Here are you, and here is that soul. And like with every other human being, we come together for a few years, and it's like a phase, and then at some point, there has to be separation. Because there is no human soul who can travel the way with you all the way. And it shouldn't be that way. You are independent. You are yourself. So until you keep saying, it's my mother, there will be attachment, and there will be pain, and there will be that feeling of loss. The day you say that story, that person, you know, I really appreciated that soul in my life. I really appreciated how much they did for me and what I learned from them. The care, the love. But that soul was not my mother. That was just a part of their journey. That soul belongs to the Supreme, to God, to Allah. It doesn't belong to me. That soul is on its own soul journey. Until you don't get to that understanding and you practice it and you keep seeing that soul, your mother, in that way, you can't be detached. So this word my is very tricky. My is the word that creates the thing. My mother, my friend, my food, my house, my idea, my belief, my city, my culture, my lifestyle. You know the food that I eat? This is the only type of food I can eat. And, you know, I'm not saying that in Like if you have certain allergies or food requirements, that's different. But I don't eat any food that's not organic. Well, what happens one day if there is no organic? Your lifestyle will become a big dependency. It's good to choose. It's good to also know that I can function and I can't choose. So just focus on getting rid of the attachment program. All right, so can we just for a few moments reflect on what's been said? I'd like you to just sit down comfortably somewhere. And I'd like you to just follow a few words that I'll say to help us to allow this class to go deep, deep inside, to seep into me. So I just sit back and I come back to the understanding of who I am. Not my physical identity. Not the things that I've been taught. Not the things I possess. Not the people in my life. Not all my labels. But come back to my real identity. I am a soul on this journey, on this path. And in this identity, I have so much to give to life. So much to share. I'm not dependent on life. I'm not dependent on anything in the journey. I am a powerful soul. So, really that's not what it's very, very great. Let's lay down my sleep. The journey. Then I become subservient to that journey. I no longer want I no longer want pain in my life. I no longer want fluctuation and emotional roller coasters. I want this and create that protective buffer zone around me. I'm infinite. I'm infinite. I'm aware of myself. And that's for everyone. Everyone. How powerful is that? do want to be dependent or be attached to anyone. Let me attach myself to the one thing that remains constant. Acknowledging. One. Let him be the foundation. I would always. Now bring that power back into your life. Just relook how you look. And that's how you could without having always around you. Thank you. So before we end, I'd just like to, of course, thank you all for joining because time is precious and it's great that you've given an hour of your time to learning something. I hope you get some points out of the session today. But I also wanted to mention that if anyone would like to do the meditation course or even do it again, revise it. If you can just message me and let me know. We can arrange for that in English or Arabic. Absolutely fine. Or if you like, we can also arrange for you to join a meditation class wherever you're situated in the world. We have centers pretty much everywhere. So thank you again. Take care. And next week, you can join a workshop with Mariam in Arabic. So those who speak Arabic, same place, same time. It's the Zoom room at 4 p.m. UAE time. Same link, in fact. We're all welcome. Thank you and goodbye.